Thank you so much for being here this morning. My name is Andrew Honan. I'm the president and CEO of the Portland Business Alliance, which is Greater Portland's Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, both in person and virtually speaking. This is the new world we live in, and it's an exciting one. And I want to take a moment, of course, to recognize those that made it possible for us to be here today, and those companies that support this series and this event. And I want to have all of us provide gratitude to the Portland Tribune and to KeyBank. Please give them a big round of applause. We're fortunate as always, and Dana, you're going to have a long hike up here, so I want to preview this to you, to have Dana Haynes here from the Portland Trib. Please welcome Dana. Dana?
Hang on, I'm a little winded. No, thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. We really appreciate being here. This is really an important conversation to be had because, and before we do talk about the people who want to be the chair, I think I want to say a couple of words about the woman who is the chair. Deborah Cafori has been a very important part of our community, politically speaking, for a long period of time. She's been the chair since 2014. Before that, she was a member of the county commission, 09 to 13, I believe it was. Before that, she was in the House. She, with 1999 to 2005, she had, amongst other things, the job of being the majority leader, where she did a tremendous job. And she comes from a political dynasty. Her family has been tremendously politically important for a long period of time. I heard her give a speech years ago at the City Club of Portland. And when she was done with the speech, a very prominent Portland attorney got up to the microphone and asked her a difficult question, a tough question, a multi-part question. And when he was done, she looked at the microphone and said, "Really, Dad? Seriously?" Stephen. So covering the county is interesting, and running for the county is interesting because they're ill understood. People, I live in an apartment complex 4 blocks from here, 27 floors, 300 units. And if I went door to door and asked people, what does the county do? My guess is most people wouldn't know. It is ill understood and poorly covered by much of the media, although we have only 4 beat reporters at the Portland Tribune, and one of them covers the county. So we try and do it. And people don't understand, from public health to jails, to homeless services, to housing services, to veterans services. I mean, we live in Bridge City, and many of the bridges here are owned by the county. So it's ill understood and terribly important. It has a big impact on people. So this conversation today is great. It could not be more important for the voters. We appreciate being here, speaking for the Portland Tribune and for the Pamplin Media Group. We really appreciate this opportunity, so thank you.
All right, now please join me in welcoming up someone who has a much shorter distance to make it to the stage. That would be Jason Frankel, Critical Initiative Manager with KeyBank's Enterprise Digital Group. That just sounds fascinating, so I'm excited about that. Jason, please come on up and let's give him a big warm round of applause.
It's not as exciting as it seems. It is exciting. I think the more exciting part is the fact that every time that I wrote down PBA on my notes right here for my speech, I went old school and have to tell myself, do not say Professional Bowlers Association. So that's where my worry is. Again, my name is Jason Frankel, and I am part of KeyBank's national digital team. I've been a part of the Oregon and Southwest Washington business community for multiple decades. And part of it, what I really enjoy to really do and take a lot of care with, is community involvement. This is an area and a place that I chose to raise my family. And within the next day or two, I've got to say, we have a brand new addition coming, my first grandchild. So that'll be fifth generation of working and living inside this community that I love so much. I share the desire of each of us here today and continue to keep Multnomah County really one of the most beautiful places on earth. And I'm proud to say, and that we can all be proud to say, that we're a part of. We will soon have the opportunity to go ahead and meet and elect a new Multnomah County chairperson. This person will have the responsibility for a wide array of public services that impact all of us and help address some of the big issues our county is actually grappling with right now. Like you, I look forward to hearing from each of these candidates about their goals for our county and our business community. At KeyBank, we actually know that flourishing business interests and healthy communities are linked together. And like you, we know that future is bright with the direction we're going. Thank you as always to our partners here at the PBA, Portland Business Alliance, for the timely programming. And we appreciate the candidates and everything that we're going to hear today. Thank you.
And if it doesn't get you more excited, just take a look at Jason's shoes. They are the coolest part about being back in person is that we get to see the complete self. And Jason knows how to represent with style. And I appreciate that. And oftentimes I wish we were confused with the Portland or whatever the Professional Bowling Association. I think that would help our brand image a little bit. So thank you. With that, again, thank you to both KeyBank and to the Trib. Now I want to take a moment and just really just gratitude to the partnership with the Gresham Area Chamber is just really an important part of business advocacy success to be united with our colleagues that do this work often. And I'm just really pleased to have Lin Snodgrass here with us, President and CEO of the Gresham Chamber. Please welcome Lin Snodgrass. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. The reason I got a head start is because I'm a former politician and people don't applaud on former politicians anymore. The Gresham Area Chamber of Commerce is really grateful to have this opportunity to join hands with the Portland Business Alliance to host today's very important forum. Chambers, by their very nature, are helpful to each other. Anytime a chamber can collaborate, share ideas, and advocate for each other, that collaboration ultimately helps the entire business community we each represent. Today is an example of that collaboration. Gresham is the 4th largest city in Oregon, still. We're 20 minutes from Multnomah Falls, 48 minutes to skiing on Mount Hood, 14 minutes from the airport, 12 minutes from great fishing in the Columbia or Sandy Rivers. We have a 2-time Olympic gold medal winner, Ryan Krauser, a Miss America, Katie Harmon, the founder of Gardenburger. We have an airplane manufacturer, the Boeing Company, and a diamond manufacturer, De Beers or Element 6. We have just under 3,000 businesses in our small footprint. The Gresham Area Chamber membership represents 32,000 employees. We host 221 annual events. We have 450 members, 19% of which are nonprofits, and 41% that are minority and or women-owned businesses. The strength of our chamber is the backbone of our mission statement. We're the catalyst that advocates, educates, and collaborates for regional vitality and prosperity. And that means that we're at the table helping make decisions like this very important one before us today. Who will be advocating at the county level for our entire collective business community? Who will partner with the 4th largest city in Oregon and bring economic prosperity to our part of your region? Thank you again, Portland Business Alliance and Andrew specifically, for including not just the Gresham Area Chamber as co-host, but for the outreach that you did to the broader associations whose members share a great interest in who our next Multnomah County chair will be. Thank you very much. Andrew, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And of course, we appreciate your collaboration on this event. And in addition to our sponsors, we have many partners that Lynn just mentioned, and I want to just highlight them because they're either here in person or out there in some virtual world. So thank you to the Columbia Corridor Association, the East Metro Association of Realtors, the Home Builders Association of Metropolitan Portland, Multifamily Northwest, Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, Oregon Smart Growth, the Portland Metropolitan Association of Realtors, West Side Economic Alliance, Work System, and the Working Waterfront Coalition. Let's give all these colleagues a big round of applause. So a few notes before we really kick things off here. This is a critical race, as was mentioned before. Dana highlighted the import of this election. And in 2022, voters in Multnomah County will have the opportunity to elect a new county chairperson. And this role will manage a $2.8 billion annual budget, administer an array of public services, including public health, social services, jails, courts, bridges, libraries, just to name a few. And they will also play a pivotal role in implementation of a home for everyone to reduce the unsheltered population here in Portland. I just want to say we're joined by sitting commissioners today, and just from me to you and from all of us, just thank you for public service. It is not an easy time to be an elected official. We don't make it easy for you to do your jobs. Let's give them a big round of applause. So with that, I'm going to highlight just a really outstanding panel that would be supported by an incredible moderator today, which was picked with intentionality to represent both the diversity of this region as well as the diversity of interests of the business community and the geographic diversity of our county. And so you've met Lin Snodgrass, President and CEO of the Gresham Area Chamber of Commerce. Michael Liu is the Chief Financial Officer for Fubon Shopping Center and Vice Chair of Government Relations for the Alliance Board of Directors. Javier Alamia, real estate broker with Keller Williams Realty and the Portland Metropolitan Associations of Realtors, and Jessica Curtis, Chair of the Downtown Retail Council and General Manager of Pioneer Place. And with that, I'm just really happy that we have Ken Boddy is here today, co-anchor of Coin 6 News this morning. You know, you see him in the morning, but if you don't know Ken, Ken's just a pro in the business, and we're just really lucky to have him here today. So everybody, please give a warm welcome to Ken Boddy.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be here today for today's forum with the Portland Business Alliance. Today's forum will be a discussion. It's not a debate. So we have excellent candidates here, and as John mentioned, we have an excellent group of panelists who will be asking the questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. I will be timing you, and I hope that I don't have to cut you off in mid-sentence. So I'll try to avoid doing that. I'd like to welcome up the candidates right now. Please welcome Commissioner Jessica Vega Pederson, Commissioner Laurie Stegman, and Commissioner Sharon Meieran. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you for being here and for being part of this Portland Business Alliance Forum. We start by giving each of you an opportunity for an opening statement. And in no particular order, we will start with Commissioner Meieran, and you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Yes. Yes, you can. Wow. It is really wonderful to be here today. Thank you. And I am Sharon Meieran, and I am running for chair because the work of Multnomah County is my passion. And I really appreciate Andrew and Dana and Jason for describing what the county does. We are the heart and soul of local government. Public health, mental health, human services, homeless services. And I have been, frankly, frustrated watching the crises worsen in areas that I know deeply. These are homelessness, behavioral health, public safety, public health. And I know we can be doing better. And I know how we can do better. So I'm an ER doctor. I'm also a lawyer. I'm a frontline medical volunteer going to homeless encampments, directly serving people who are houseless on our streets. And I have unique skills and expertise that we need at this exact moment in time to move the county forward. But as I've learned working at the county for several years now, in order to move the county forward with a new vision and direction, you need to be in the role of chair. And so every day we see some form of inhumanity on our streets, whether it's people living outside amidst actual garbage, whether it is people suffering from mental health crises and being taken to jails instead of to treatment, people on methamphetamines who are psychotic and just in our streets, And this is not okay. But every day working in local government, I see this being treated like it is okay. And maybe it's because I have a different perspective as an ER doctor, but I feel that we need to be addressing these urgent needs, life and death, people living in squalor urgently. And that's where I will push us forward.
Commissioner Stegman.
My name is Laurie Stegman, and I serve as your vice chair on the Multnomah County Board. I'm an immigrant and the first Asian American to ever serve on the board in 168 years. I grew up in the Rockwood neighborhood of Gresham, one of the lowest income and most diverse communities, where I've owned a small business for nearly 30 years. I'm the only commissioner who has demonstrated leadership across all 5 of the major cities in the county, which is no easy task considering they consist of both urban and rural areas. Those deep relationships have resulted in a $40 million investment in homeless services, plans for an East County Homeless Service Center with 50 beds of alternative shelter, 334 units of deeply affordable housing, a food bank, and a partnership with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office's HOPE team to connect houseless residents to services. We can all probably agree that homelessness and public safety are 2 of the most urgent priorities for our community. We need to be laser focused on implementing solutions that address the drivers of these crises. I believe that some of the root causes of these issues are due to generational poverty, trauma, shame, addiction, and racism. We must go upstream and offer people access to opportunities to make better choices for themselves and their loved ones. By making our communities stronger and safer is how we can reclaim lives and build community resilience. And one of the most significant ways we can do that is by providing economic resiliency. And while my business and political experience are foundational to running a nearly $3 billion organization with over 6,000 employees at the county, it is my lived experience that enables me to lead with passion, humility, and purpose. You may have heard of the famous Holt Airlift, where over 3,000 Korean orphans were adopted by American families. I was one of those babies. And while I'm incredibly blessed to have been adopted by a loving family, we struggled with housing and food insecurity. But because I had public assistance at the most critical times in my life, I was able to break the cycle of poverty. And that's where I'm running.
And that is 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Commissioner Vega Pederson.
Thank you, Ken. Good morning, everyone. It is so wonderful to be here in person with a live audience today. This is a new thing for all of us. So I'm Jessica Vega Pederson, and when my husband and I got married 16 years ago, we bought our home in East Portland. At the time, I was the technology project manager, and my husband was just starting out his small business. Hazelwood was a neighborhood where we could afford and where we knew we could be part of the community. We have been in that house ever since. Same house, same block, but a rapidly changing community. It's an area made up of people from all over the world who love our community, but who often are working hard just to keep their heads above water. When I ran my first campaign, I ran it on sidewalks, on my frustration about being a young mom and not being able to take my kids around the block without having to go into the streets because we didn't have sidewalks. I ran because of the dangerous speeds that people were driving through my neighborhoods. Community came together to support my first campaign. And together we got sidewalks and a whole lot more for the people of East Portland. I have brought that power building approach to every issue I've tackled, both at the state legislature and on the county commission. As the first Latina to serve in the Oregon House, I've championed initiatives to bring paid sick leave to every Oregon worker, to pass tax policies that help seniors stay in their homes, to raise Oregon's minimum wage, and to get coal out of our energy mix. And at Multnomah County, I worked with neighborhood associations, with businesses and schools to successfully site shelters and supportive services in my district. I fought to get better COVID response and resources to our BIPOC community who has been so impacted by the pandemic. And I led the fight for preschool for all, an investment in early childhood education in children and workers that is going to make a generational impact. Right now, we are at an important inflection point. from our housing and houselessness crisis to combating climate change, to increasing community safety, to addressing systemic racism. We need comprehensive solutions that address the urgency of the issues before us. We need a Multnomah County chair who's a proven leader in times when we face unprecedented challenges. She should also feel like your advocate, no matter what part of Multnomah County you're in.
And that is 2 minutes. Sorry about that. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for your opening statements. Sorry I had to cut you off at the end for time, but we want to get our questions in. And we'll begin the questions with Michael Liu.
Thank you, commissioners, for being here today. I'm Mike Liu with Fubon Shopping Center in Southeast Portland. And for the first question, it's going to be about homelessness. For years, the county has taken a housing first, which for many of us sometimes feels like a housing only approach to the homeless crisis. Even with the recent addition of hundreds of shelter beds, Multnomah County and the state of Oregon still have nearly the lowest ratio of available shelter beds to the number of residents currently living unsheltered on the streets of virtually any major region. Clearly, housing is a priority for all of us, as it is both casually related to our overall homeless population, but also erodes our wages and ability to afford to live in our region. Voters have clearly rejected the notion that it is either housing or shelter, but it has been the lack of shelter that leaves thousands of people living on the streets in often clearly inhumane conditions and prevents cities in Multnomah County from enforcing no camping ordinances by keeping them out of compliance with the new state law written and championed by Speaker Kotek in 2021. HB 3115 prevents local governments from enforcing no camping laws if they don't have enough shelter. With the number of homeless Portlanders and the unsheltered at a record high, voters have clearly reached their limit and strongly support policies to limit camping to designated areas only. As the new chair responsible for stewarding the most resources per capita in the nation for homeless services with hundreds of millions of dollars dedicated to solving this crisis, please tell us in the next 4 years what your policy philosophies will be and what changes will you make so the public sees more progress in reducing the unsheltered population on our street.
And I'm going to rotate the order of the answers as we go through each question. So the first response will come from Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we have to increase the amount of shelters that we have. But more importantly, what we have to know is how many people are being turned away from shelters. So you all are business people, and there has to be a throughput of the need. Now, whether or not we want to, challenge the Martin versus Boise case, that remains to be seen. But what I would propose in Troutdale, we are building 50 beds of alternative shelter. And we have something called 1,000 acres where we have about maybe 60 individuals living out there. My idea is to geographically relocate those individuals. So that property is owned by state lands. And we could, if we go to that population, I work with the HOPE team, the Homeless Outreach Program team with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. I've advocated for funding for the last 5 years. They are now getting a navigation team to work with those individuals. And so we can geographically move those people into services, coupled with state lands enforcing that it is no longer okay to camp there. So I think that by geographically providing the services and then enforcing the law, that's how we move people through the system. And that's how we house more people. We also have to look at the drug, the fentanyl and meth crisis. You all in North Portland know, we're not looking at the entire picture. Why are people homeless? Because of racism, because of poverty, access to family wage jobs, how expensive it is to live here. And all of those elements, we have to get upstream, and we can talk about one tiny solution, or we can talk about what is the strategy, what is the plan. And one of the things I will do is create an economic development and workforce stability department. We don't have any economic development at the county, which is crazy to me, because we have people that come to us that need services, and we never say, do you have a family wage job? We got close to $100 million in rental assistance, which I'm really proud of. And it prevented many people from becoming homeless. But we never asked, do you have a job? And how are you going to pay your rent in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months? So all we do is we put Band-Aids on things. We never solve the problem. I
2
want to
minutes.
look at the root causes of the problem.
2 minutes. Thank you very much. Commissioner Vega Pederson.
So as Multnomah County Chair, housing and houselessness is going to be my #1 priority. And that work starts with bringing our regional leaders together to actually address the issue together and comprehensively. I think all of us are sick of the pointing and the blaming or saying, that's not our jurisdiction, that's not work. That is not how I operate. I have no problem with accountability. I have no problem with bringing people together to say we need to work together to solve this. And so that would be one of the first things that I would do, is actually get the mayor, the metro president, our legislators, the next governor in the room and say, we have a crisis on our street and we need to work together and bring all of our resources and work to bear to solve this problem. That is the first thing. And so it's about bringing leadership first. But we also need to have a comprehensive system to approach this issue. And we have resources now that we never had before with the supportive housing service. We to keep people from becoming homeless in the first place. So prevention, having no long-term housing voucher is something that we haven't had before, and that's going to be a powerful tool. We have to help keep people off our street. It means investing in shelters and shelter alternatives. As I said earlier, I have had experience actually successfully opening shelters in my district with community, including we're going to have 2 alternative shelters opening in East Portland is a very popular place to put these things. So I've been working with community and we have to ensure that people are who get into permanent housing have the supports that they need to be successful in that housing. And that means using the rental assistance, rapid rehousing, and vouchers. And we have to make sure that as we are investing in these things, we are working with community, we are working with the neighbors to make sure that they understand what's going on, that they are part of the solution, and that they feel that these new shelters and new housing that we're putting in their neighborhoods are actually an asset to them. I will say some of the best results that we've seen in getting people successfully housed is an initial stay at a safer, more stable temporary housing situation like a hotel or shelter that incorporates both mental and physical health supports for them so that they can become stabilized, they can get their issues under control, and that makes them more successful than when they're moving into permanent housing.
Time. Thank you very much. Our next questioner is Jessica Curtis. Oh, we have one more. Cafori.
It's all right. It's all right.
When you're trying to keep everybody on time.
Thank you. So for me, again, I'm an ER doctor. It is about stopping the bleeding, and it's about systems change with a goal, a vision, and a plan driven by data. So I really appreciate the question that you asked with the housing first philosophy. There shouldn't be a single philosophy that we adhere to at all. Housing first does work for a lot of people, so we should use it. And we should be doing other things for the people for whom housing first doesn't work. Second, I really appreciated your pointing out, we talk tens and hundreds of shelter beds. These are like isolated, fragmented systems. They are a drop in the bucket when we have maybe 8,000 people living unsheltered outside. So while it's great, we do a shelter here and a shelter there, we need to connect the dots and we need a plan to urgently get thousands of people sheltered. That's what I would want to do. Urgently, I'd implement a proposal that I have made, a plan healthier and safer for communities to places they want to be, faster and cheaper than we're doing now, and at scale. Go to my website, votesharon.com, and the plan has been there all along. It's been on my county website. We need the big picture. I was with a crisis task force with the city to break through bureaucracy. And meanwhile, I'd ensured we're collecting data and implementing results-driven contracting. Boring stuff. I think you as business people do get it though. We need to be able to assess our progress, have a goal, and achieve actual measurable results. We don't have that at all at the county now, and we need to be implementing that. Also, it's the long-term strategies, of course, that work needs to continue. We need to address root causes and prevention and long-term housing. We need to focus on stopping the bleeding, and that's what I would urgently.
Thank you very much. Our next questioner will be Jessica Curtis.
Hi, good morning. The county just essentially unilaterally dismantled the management structure of the Joint Offices for Homeless Services, otherwise known as a home for everyone, and has replaced it with a lengthy list of stakeholder advisory committees, making the county commission the independently homeless services and all related programs like addiction and mental health. Funder of the joint office. Do you agree with the structure changes that were just made, or will you propose something different if you are elected chair?
We'll begin this round with Commissioner Vega Pederson.
Thank you. So this is a really critical question as we're looking at the work that we have to do and how we're going to scale up to put the supportive housing services dollars into use. When the Joint Office of Homeless Services was formed 5 years ago, the city of Portland was a bigger funder of homeless services from their general fund than the county. That is changing because of the sort of supportive housing services measure and the dollars that the county is going to be getting, and our responsibility to be putting those dollars out into work, just like Washington County is responsible for their dollars and Clackamas County is responsible for their dollars. So the work that we have to do and the role of the county has changed. That being said, we have to have good partnerships with the city in order to address the crisis that's on our street, because there is work that the Joint Office does in their scope, like making sure that the federal dollars that we receive for homelessness are put to good use. And so we need to have an advisory committee for that. We need to have the advisory committee that's required for the supportive housing services. And those are being set up. But we, as Multnomah County Chair, I would also put into place a bigger table that looks at more of the overarching ideas or overarching issues that impact housing and homelessness. So it includes the work of getting people housed and getting people into shelter, but it also is talking about health. It's also talking about mental health and issues. It's also talking about the work of our first responders and the role of some of the resources that we have, like Portland Street Response, that is not having law enforcement, but actually is having other people intercede in those things. It's about having a discussion and a cooperation about how we're addressing some of the issues around homelessness that are impacting livability issues like trash. Like we need to have a better understanding about that. So this is a higher level table that I would put in place that's above the scope of just what the Joint Office does, but is really looking at this at the issue of homelessness and its impacts comprehensively, and that we absolutely have to be doing in partnership with the city. And the city needs to have a say because we want them to continue to be a partner. We want them to continue to fund this work. So whether, so even if the structure of the Joint Office looks a little different, they still need to have an important role in how that functions. Ultimately, though, it does need to be Multnomah County Commission and the Portland City Commission that is responsible for the ultimate work of the Joint Office, because we are the democratically elected people that ultimately needs to be responsible and accountable for taxpayers.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Meieran.
Thank you. I really appreciate that question because I've been on the Home for Everyone Executive Committee and attended coordinating board meetings since I started at the county. I have seen the issues up close and personal, expecting that these bodies were truly advisory, oversight, and accountability bodies, and recognizing that they in fact have not been, that there are issues, but there are opportunities to improve them, to make them the advisory bodies we need that are more effective, more inclusive of all of our sectors, not a lone sector, which is a specific important group of homeless service providers, but we need to include our neighborhoods, business, communities, community associations, other grassroots organizations. So we also need more accountability. So we need to streamline and make the body effective, not dismantle it. So I've been very vocal about not doing that. I have a proposal on my website, again, as to how we should make the body more effective, not dismantle it. And especially it points to how we oversee the Joint Office of Homeless Services, which I also believe needs to be restructured. We voted, I've argued for Built for Zero, this approach that everyone thinks is great, that's data-driven to get to zero homelessness for years. It was only at the Home for Everyone Executive Committee that finally we were able to bring that forward for a vote when Commissioner Ryan started on the committee with me with some other people that were new to that board. We got that passed. We still haven't implemented it. It was over a year and a half ago, but we got a presentation yesterday, a board briefing saying, this is urgent. We need to do this. We wouldn't have even had this at all if we did not have that advisory body getting us to that point. So we need that. We need restructuring of the joint office. We need it to be shared equally with the city. It is not right now. And that is the work that I know deeply and have been involved in and see opportunities for change as chair.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you. You know, let's be frank, that body, well, I appreciate everyone who has served on those different committees. It had become dysfunctional. And with the supportive housing measure services bond that was passed, we are required to have a continuum of care committee and an advisory committee. So we are building the foundation. So again, I'm a very kind of linear, pragmatic, mathematical kind of person. Like let's build the skeleton, let's rebuild the basis so that let's meet the requirements of what our responsibility is. And we are doing that. The other thing that we're doing is that East County has never been at that table. And I have fought for and getting representation from Gresham, Fairview, Choctaw, Wood Village. And we want and need. Homelessness looks very different in East County than it does in the downtown core area. But with that being said, my leadership style is very bottom up. Every idea, strategy that I share with you today, I've stolen from somebody else because the people that work on the front lines that lead up our departments, I went and said, what is the one thing that would solve the problem that your department or your division is facing? And guess what? They told me, and they were thrilled that someone even asked them. You all know when you ask your employees and your frontline workers, what is your biggest challenge, your biggest struggle? They will tell you, and oftentimes you'll go, wow, I never really thought about that. So absolutely. You all know that the business community, landlords and property owners sometimes are vilified. And my question is that if we drive landlords out, where are people going to live? If we drive business leaders and economic development and stability, who's going to pay the taxes that support the county? So it is absolutely critical that everyone's at the table, including neighborhood associations, the business community, CBOs, the faith-based community, anybody who can contribute something to this houseless crisis, because it is not, we get blamed all the time. Multnomah County, you need to solve homelessness. We are not a big enough organization. We can't do it alone. We need the city of Portland, we need the Portland Business Alliance, and we need everybody to show up with whatever they can. And so the other thing is that these committees are, I think there was a misunderstanding.
And finish up because you're at
They
time.
don't have any authority. They're advisory committees.
All right, thank you very much. Our next questioner is Lin Snodgrass.
Thank you. I didn't know I was turned off. There we go. Ken, you're doing a great job. Commissioners, as I stated earlier, Gresham is the fourth largest city in Oregon. Yet many in the county have long felt ignored and even abandoned by the county. They felt mistreated at times and even undervalued. In 2019, the Portland Business Alliance report on the county, but only 30% are held by local residents. Please tell us why Gresham and other East County municipalities will be important to you as county chair And specifically, what have you done or what will you do to better partner with our cities?
And we'll start with Commissioner Meieran this time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. It is fundamentally, foundationally important in the role of chair to be focusing on our entire county, and East County in particular has been has needed that direct connection and relationship. And I think a lot of us have deferred to Commissioner Stegman as the commissioner, for the wonderful commissioner for East County. In addition to that, I have reached out to collaborate with East County residents, gone out with our HOPE team, which is with the sheriff's office, an incredible model to address homelessness. I've spoken and regularly communicate with many of our elected officials out there, connected to a number of those officials around disaster preparedness work, because I'm on the disaster preparedness organization. And we said, we need to get together as a whole regional group. So we meet, we do collaborate. We are getting together to talk about homelessness because some of the representatives in East County feel that the joint office has not been representing them. We need to be doing that work. It's why I'm honored to have former D4 Commissioner Diane McKeel's endorsement in this race. And it is essential to be a whole county, but recognize the different needs. We don't all have to do things the same way, but we need a shared understanding and a vision that moves us all forward together.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Stegman.
So I'm so excited. I am developing 90 acres at what's called the Vance Project. This has been a labor of love for me for the past 5.5 years. On that, we've just released the master plan, and we will have housing, we will have a workforce corridor, and a green space. I have expertise as a Gresham City Councilor for 6 years and a Gresham Redevelopment Commissioner for 6 years. If you look at our urban renewal area, the downtown Rockwood area, we just broke ground for the third and final phase that will be a multi-family complex, but buildings 1 and 2 host Wallace Medical Concern. We have the Mount Hood Community College Small Business Development Center there. We have a daycare center. The vision when I was a redevelopment commissioner is, you all know, urban renewal does not have a good history, but we wanted to create a place that served the residents that live there. And that's exactly what we did. My experience of being a redevelopment commissioner is going to pay huge dividends as I work to develop this additional 90 acres in Vance, one of the most low income, most diverse neighborhoods, arguably in the entire state. And we have immigrants, we have people that are lacking in educational, the same type of services that the rest of the county has access. And you know, Lynn, that we have never received the resources. But I'll tell you this, East County, you elect me as chair, guess what? You've just doubled your representation for East County, because you will have a new East County District 4 person, and you will have an East County chair. And I think that will be the first time in history that has ever happened. And trust me, every day I fight for the city of Gresham from the business income tax that was threatened to be taken away. Not only did I save it, but I got it increased. So every day it's all about how I can get more money, more resources into a part of the county that has been continually neglected. And we are no longer going to be, hope there's no redheads, but the stepchild, the redhead, like, you're right. We got 100,000 jobs, like East County ready. I've invested decades and I'm ready to go. So let's go.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Vega Pederson.
Thank you. So this is a really great question. You know, as somebody who's represented a district in the state legislature, somebody who's represented a district at the county level, I understand that the work that we do as elected representatives aren't just about representing your district, although it's great that people know that they have a district representative that they can reach out to get their issues addressed, which we don't have at the city of Portland at this point. But it's also about working on behalf of all of the people of the body that you're in, whether it's the state of Oregon or whether it's the folks all over Multnomah County. And so I've never let the fact that I'm elected to a certain district really stop the work or the scope of the work that I do. And it's interesting living in East Portland. I live on one of the most eastern edges of the city of Portland. A lot of the, our athletic club, the pizza, where we go get our pizza, the parks that we go to, those are all in Gresham. Those are all in East County, right? Because we're right there on the border. And so I've always looked at the issues that I've taken on for the county and looking at it as a countywide. I represent Multnomah County on JPAC, which is the advisory committee at Metro on transportation issues. So I've been engaged in the work on looking at transportation impacts, not just in, partnering with the city of Portland and PBOT, but looking at the work in unincorporated areas of the county, looking at areas in the cities of East Portland, in East County. And with Preschool for All, that was work that we had to do countywide. So we engaged with schools, we engaged with parents, we engaged with small businesses to put together a program and a policy that was going to work for everyone in Multnomah County, especially those folks in East County that have the least access to preschool and really understanding what their needs and their challenges. And I'm really proud that we have worked so closely with the Mount Hood Community College resource and referral to help us with getting that program off the ground and working with providers. There's a lot of other policies that I've worked on at the county that have had countywide scope, like the wood smoke issue, and really making sure that we're listening to the people's needs, especially in more rural parts of the county, on how those policies are going to impact them. That kind of outreach is what I would continue to do as county
That's
chair.
2 minutes. Thank you very much. Our next questioner is Javier Alamia.
Good morning. Ken, I think I'll follow-up questions if there's time. If not, we'll catch it in the second round. As mentioned earlier, the Portland region is facing an unprecedented affordability crisis, with the most recent data showing that Portland is now as expensive as Seattle when adjusted for median household income. This dramatic raise in the cost of living is driven primarily by the cost of housing and taxes. Let's first talk about housing. How much of the county's infill homeownership and housing development much of the county's infill homeownership housing development will be focused in Portland, East, and Multnomah County in the years ahead. The potential for displacement in this is an important issue to consider when we look at redevelopment. What tools and incentives would you recommend using to address displacement while factoring in private property rights and the increased cost of housing as property taxes go up?
And we begin with Commissioner Stegman.
Well, I think it goes back to the overall, getting to the root cause of what's going on. Is that there's two ways. We can either we can either increase taxes or lower our expenses. And you're right, right now people have to pay a premium to live in the Portland region area. So what we have more control over, and let me just say, county typically does not support tax increases. So there is a market difference. But I think one of the things that we could do is create the economic development department that I want to create. And right now I've been trying to get some tax incentives provided for a technology company that wants to expand in Gresham, but I have not received the support that I would have liked to add hundreds of well-paying jobs. And so I think the more that we can look at different types of housing models as well, the other thing about like the supportive housing measure bond is that we never looked, like we said we're going to build 3,900 units in 10 years, but you all know it takes 2 years to build a complex. So I get why everybody's mad at us, but really, like if you would have read the fine print, it said 10 years, but the cadence of the crisis and COVID and everything, all of this came crashing down on us. So the only thing that we can do is that we have to get our downtown core reestablished. I just visited the Behavioral Health Resource Center, amazing. We have to get employees back to work. We have to rebuild our economy. And also I sit on the GPI, the Greater Portland Inc. Board. You all know that we just released our SEDS report, which is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. If you read that, that's the roadmap. That's where we need to go. It's about uplifting and addressing, the racial inequities to enable more home ownership. We have to look at our land use and our permitting. City of Portland, I'm sorry, but y'all got to step up. Your permitting process is terrible. We've got to move faster. We're not matching executing the cadence with the urgency that we have to. And you all know again that you don't run a business for 30 years without executing your vision and your strategy with urgency. And we have to do
And that's
that.
time. Thank you very much. Commissioner Vega Pederson, same question.
Yeah, so, we talk about housing, we talk about houselessness, and they're very, very closely tied. And the housing affordability issue was an issue in this region even before COVID happened. But what we've seen in the last year and a half with housing prices has just been astronomical. But even prior to COVID, there was a report that came out that in the city of Portland, seniors, people of color, single parents could not afford to live in any to buy a home in any neighborhood in the city. And it has just gotten more unaffordable. So I think that, like, as we're talking about the work that we need to do and that the next county chair needs to do, we have to be talking about our housing capacity. We have to be talking about how we're going to be able to make Multnomah County, the Portland region, a place where people can continue to come and start their lives and get their jobs and start their families, because we need that. We need that kind of ingrowth in population migration to keep us as a thriving community, to keep us as a thriving region. And so I think that there's a couple different things that we need to do. One, we need to make sure that we are using all of the land that we currently have available to build the housing all across the spectrum of pricing availability. We especially we're under building of tens of thousands of units per year in this entire state and thousands of units in the Portland region specifically. So we have to be building more housing. We have an affordable housing bond for both the Portland and the metro area. That's great. What are we going to do about the next one? Or what are we going to do to make it easier for private developers to be doing affordable housing? We have to be working together with the city, with the East County cities, and with Metro to really look at that. We also, though, have to look at our land use policies and the amount of land that we have to build on. Right now, in our statewide land use basically says you can have your urban reserves grow based on what your past need has been or the past development has been. But we know that we're already under building. And so we have to actually change that. And there's going to be work done, I hope, in the legislative session upcoming on how do we need to change that work to make sure that we're actually planning for the land that we will need to fill the gap of the housing that we're building. And then we have to do more. And I think, again, long-term housing vouchers that we have in the supportive housing service
And that's time.
is a powerful tool to keep people who are living here.
Thank you. And Commissioner Meieran.
Thank you. So most of our tax structure is it's broken at the state level, and there are things that we need to do. We would need to change our constitution to fix a number of those aspects from that property tax standpoint. Some recent local taxes that we've implemented have been challenging for people, and I personally know a number of people who have moved out of our community just because of it. It's hard to put it all together, and it doesn't necessarily make sense. It's not cohesive, and we're not seeing results for what we're paying taxes for. We need to, first of all, use those taxes, the tax revenue we are getting, to have effective, appropriate solutions to be able to keep people in place and enable people to meet their needs where they are. And the kinds of things that we need to look at, well, first of all, we need to innovate. And that innovation and government bureaucracy are often things you don't hear talked about together, but we need to be doing that and thinking outside the box, thinking creatively how to keep people places. We need to be understanding exactly who is moving and why and address those needs. That goes back to data and systems, which we don't have enough of. It goes to proactive thinking and thinking down the road so that we can prepare. And I think about things in terms of what people need as seniors living on fixed income who do need long-term rent assistance to be able to stay in their homes. I think of elders also who have needs. They want to live in place, but maybe it's not even rent. It's things like supporting their ability to get around their house. It's disability services. It's things like that so people can stay in place. I think about the immigrant and refugee community in my neighborhood in Southwest Portland that desperately wants to be in that neighborhood and feels like they're being left behind in terms of planning because everything is sort of focusing on, further east. And they're like, we want to stay here. We want to be here, but we don't even have any services here to get to. You have all these vaccination clinics. We don't even have
And I
one
have
on the
to,
west side. We
have
need
to
to
give you
think
time now.
holistically.
All right, thank you. Holly, you had a quick follow-up?
Yes, quickly. Staying on conversation about taxes, do you support or oppose the ballot measure proposed by the Democratic Socialist of America, Portland chapter, that would create a 0.75% county capital gains tax to fund free attorneys for individuals facing eviction?
And quick answers here. We'll go in the same order for the follow-up. So it'll be Commissioner.
I'm just sorry, was that about the eviction representation? Yeah. No new taxes.
Pederson.
As my quote in Willamette Week said, this is a sledgehammer trying to do a nail. This is the wrong method for a problem that does need to be solved, but it is completely the wrong method. So I do not support it.
Commissioner Meieran.
Opposed.
Very good. Everybody stayed on time that time. Yeah. Okay, our next question is from Michael Liu.
In the past 3 years, the Multnomah County Commission has approved or referred numerous tax increases. Increase in the Multnomah business income tax and voter approval of the new library bond and the preschool for all income tax. The 2021 Portland Business Alliance Tax Incidence Report showed that the burden for paying taxes in the Portland region fall primarily on low and middle income households, and higher income earners in the county pay the nation's highest effective income tax rate. And now, clearly related, for the first time, Clark County is growing faster than Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County combined. Do you still support all of these tax increases, or have you changed or amended your position? And do you see any opportunity for tax reform to reduce the burden on residents?
And we'll begin with Commissioner Vega Pederson.
Yeah, so Multnomah County voters, Metro voters have really supported a lot of investments in our community. I think investments that are going to make a huge long-term difference in our region's ability to thrive. So I am very supportive of the library bond, the parks bond, the preschool for all bond, the business income tax increases. I do want to keep an eye on the business income tax increase. We raised it so to make sure that we have enough funding when we were looking at deficits. And I want to continue to work with the business community as we're looking at the long-term financial outlook for the county and make sure that we're still at the rate. I'm also really proud that, when there are issues that come up about working on revenue issues, that the Portland Business Alliance does reach out to my office on how to look at them. There is a disconnect right now between how the local governments are taxing service organizations and how the state is. And I've been really proud to work with the Portland Business Alliance on looking at market share to align how taxes are being levied in local areas to how they're being in the state, which will make it easier for businesses to know what to expect and to actually pay their taxes. The commitments that voters have made are addressing some of the biggest issues of our time: housing and houselessness, education, access to libraries and parks. Now it's time for the government to actually put those dollars to work and to be transparent and accountable to taxpayers, that the investments that they've made in their futures and the future of this region is actually bearing out. And as county chair, I take that accountability, I take that responsibility very seriously and commit to being a very good communicator and being transparent about how those dollars are being used, what they're being used for, and making sure that we're getting the results that we expect because of those measures.
Commissioner Meieran.
Thank you. I spoke a little bit to this question in my last question, but in terms of taxes in general, it's not so much about taxes themselves. So many people, I think, in our community are generous and caring and willing to step up and support so many of the desperate needs in our community. And that is a gift. However, what we do not have is accountability. I'm willing to put up my money if I know what I'm getting for it and I could see that happening. what is missing part of the equation, and particularly for the supportive housing services measure, is that accountability and a methodology and a systems approach to account our money. It should be, I think of PTA, my kids' PTA, and you want that thermometer that's like, we're buying the new slide or whatever it is, that you can see, here's where our money is going, and we can measure that. We are not connecting those dots of what we're investing and what we are getting for it. I would push for a new system of contracting. Again, it's results-based contracting. It is a best practice. Harvard Kennedy School of Government has put it out. I am eager to put that in place at the county. And so we can measure our outcomes and be sure we're tying what we're spending to what we're getting for that. So that's the missing link for me. And individual taxes would need to just talk about separately. I am not a fan of taxes, but if they're used effectively for the right things, I want to have that conversation.
Commissioner Stegman.
It's about return on investment. So it depends. Like we passed the library bond. Thank you all so much. And we are getting a flagship library in East County. And I don't quote me on this, but I read that the Seattle library, I think, brought in $62 million in its first year of economic development. So you think about what kind of impact a flagship, meaning it's a 95,000 square foot building, something similar to the Central Library in downtown, what that can do for a community and the economic development that that can provide. Oh, and by the way, this is one of the lowest income parts of the county. So what we're looking at, like we just had a meeting about the lack of broadband internet. So if we're talking about bringing people up and along and moving them into economic stability, we have to give them the resources so that they can do that. And that means gigabyte speed that will be at our libraries. That means having educational opportunities and so much more that will address, I think, the issues of crime and gangs that are happening in our communities. So I'm all for it, but we have to look at what is our return on investment. And that's the problem, is a lot of times we spend money on things and there's no accountability, but the library is clearly a good example. And I want to thank you all because they call it the business income tax. So that big bump that we got, thank you, because you all paid for that. And again, sometimes business is vilified, but without business, our economy simply does not work. So I think it just depends on what the tax is and making sure that we're getting the outcomes and also including that in our procurement. So when we are receiving those taxes, what's not happening is we're not going on the front end to say, okay, we're going to implement something. Here's the outcomes that we expect. Here's the return that we expect. And then we're not matching it. Nobody is looking at it. And so that's why being a business owner and having a business perspective is absolutely critical. And with all due respect to my opponents, nobody has that perspective because no one's run a business for 30 years. And if you're not making a sale, if you're not being profitable in your own business, then you don't know, you can't stay in business for 30 years. It's not a choice. You've got to survive.
Yeah, I have to give you time right now. Our next question is from Jessica Curtis.
Multnomah County is responsible for most of our public safety system, funding prosecutors, courts, jails, and probation and parole. Data shows clearly that the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office has faced years of disinvestment and is now far below what is considered the minimum number of attorneys to handle the caseload for a population the size of Multnomah County. In fact, we would need to add over 40 DDAs to meet the minimum standard. As a result, the DA's office is facing a workload and burnout crisis just when we are facing the largest spike in crime in decades. DA Mike Schmidt has developed a common sense proposal to fund 4 new neighborhood prosecutors, which will not only add capacity for the first time in years, it will bring back the neighborhood DDA offices throughout the county. This is a model that is proven to help reduce crime while building community trust. Do you support this proposal? Why or why not?
Start with Commissioner Meieran for this question.
So my short answer, yes, I actually do support this proposal. I actually love this proposal, and I have spoken at length with DA Schmidt about it. And it is an area where it achieves, talking about return on investment, it accomplishes so much more than just the added power of additional attorneys and taking that pressure off the district attorneys, prosecutors who already are doing so much of this work. It establishes a connection in community where they know where to go, where they feel represented, where they feel safe, where we understand, we understand that someone is there working for us. So the idea is to have, and it's a district attorney and sort of the supportive services that will make that function. And I can't tell you how many people that I talk to, even in my own personal sphere, and constituents who contact me who say, XYZ happened, and then it disappeared. Nothing was prosecuted. Nothing is being done. And I talked to the DA. I know things are being done. There are some connectivity issues there with law enforcement, some other factors, but they are ready to do the work. And having that ambassador type DA function in neighborhoods as an advocate, I think could actually move us forward and reduce the number of people being prosecuted. Actually, it's a win-win. Very supportive.
Commissioner Stegman.
Yes, absolutely. So the Rockwood Public Safety Building in my area where I live, that was part of our urban renewal area. And again, urban renewal doesn't have a good history, but guess what? We built a public safety building there. And that is where we originally had a neighborhood DA, and Anna Fuller, Mary Almota, if you're out there, hi. Some of you may remember them. And I chaired many of those neighborhood meetings, and they were invaluable because people would come to them and say, hey, this is happening. I mean, they could ask them about specific cases or in general, and the DAs would come back and share with them. So absolutely, there is a huge backlog. We need more prosecutors. We need more public offenders or public offenders. No, we do not need more public offenders. But we need more public defenders to make sure that that backlog is addressed. And you all know because of COVID that a lot of these cases are languishing. And you all know people are leaving right and left. And that goes back to to a culture and the lack of funding. We don't have enough police. We don't have enough in our district attorney's office. So absolutely. We also created something called the Legal Services Day that came out of that office. And I'm really proud of that work because I helped continue that work where we help people expunge their records in exchange for community service. So absolutely, we have to support our public safety.
Commissioner Vega Pederson.
So Multnomah County's role in public safety is really big. And I think it's bigger than a lot of people know because not only do we do the work with our Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, who does both law enforcement and corrections in our jails. They also now are responsible for coordinating the safety response for TriMet. We work with our court system, with our judges. We've invested in a downtown courthouse, and we work with our parole and probation department, which helps people who are coming out of our jails and prisons. And we work with our district attorney's office. So as Multnomah County Chair, it's going to be a priority of mine to make sure that the work that we're doing and the coordination that's happening between all of those different public safety offices, those justice offices, are done well. I want to institute collaborative budgeting between our communities or Department of Community Justice, which is parole and probation, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and our health department to make sure that our public safety investments are not siloed, but they're actually impacting each other. I am very supportive of DA Schmidt's idea of having community-based district attorneys. I think this is something that had in the past, but they actually weren't functioning the way that you would expect them to be based in the neighborhoods. I think of citing them with community organizations, citing them in accessible areas for people, and making people see that justice is accessible for them is something that is good, not just for getting better district attorney number, district attorney's office numbers, but also for letting people believe that the county is there, that justice is there to work for them, when I think so many people think it's out of reach for them right now.
Thank you very much. Our next question comes from Lin Snodgrass.
Thank you.
90%, that's 90% of Oregon's fuel supply comes by way of pipelines and ships into the CEI hub, the Critical Energy Infrastructure Hub, where it's then distributed to communities throughout Multnomah County and the entire state of Oregon. Policy development and decisions made by local communities regarding the CEI hub infrastructure can have significant impacts on all people of Oregon and Southwest Washington, all of who rely on fuel delivery. In the recent Multnomah County CEI hub risk assessment study, the county requested the state address the CEI seismic risk. Now that the legislature has passed Senate Bill 1567, sponsored by Senator Denrow, which requires owners and operators of fuel terminals to conduct seismic vulnerability assessments, will you be satisfied with that result to address the concerns and issues raised in the study? Or do you consider moving the fuel terminals and the Olympic pipeline away from the river the only satisfactory solution to issues raised in the risk assessment study? And if that's your choice, where do you propose to relocate?
And we begin with Commissioner Stegman for this question.
Geez, Lynn, that's a tough question. Let me see, where can we move the critical energy infrastructure hub? I really don't have an answer, but here's what I do know, is that we have to get off of fossil fuels. And having, I mean, that's a terrible place to have 90% of our fuels. And we know that when the Cascadia subduction earthquake hits, it is going to devastate our region. So with that being said, there are interim steps that we can do. First of all, we have to get off of fossil fuel, and I'm so glad to see Keith Wilson. So support Keith's effort to move on to renewable diesel. But I mean, there's other things that we can do, like showing the individual tanks. Like I think, I don't know, 2/3 of those tanks there, we don't even know how old they are. So if we could go in and make sure that those are a little bit more seismic resilient, I think that that would be really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, I don't know who planned having the, all of that critical energy infrastructure there, but it was a really, really bad idea. And if there is some type of unfortunate incident, we would have where are we going to get our fuel? So I think that there does to be probably quadrants throughout the state, so that if one critical energy infrastructure hub goes down, then you're going to have 3 others. So we are happy to work with our rural communities to find out if they would like to have one in their neighborhood. But yeah, we've got all of our eggs in one basket, and it's just not sustainable.
Commissioner Vega Pederson.
So first of all, I just want to appreciate Commissioner Meieran and Commissioner Jayapal for their work in getting that report created, so that the huge risk that our region has because of a Cascadia subduction earthquake and the fact that we have the CEI hub at that location is I mean, I think that was a wake-up call for so many of us. It could be incredibly devastating. So I haven't looked into the issue of actually moving it. I am so grateful for Senator Deborah for moving forward Senate Bill 1567 to have more accountability, so that we can take the steps to make that site more safe, more secure, more seismically resilient, so it is not posing such a risk to our region. But we have to be looking. The idea of moving it in whole, I would need to look into that further. But what we do know that we need to do is actually move away from oil, from gas, and from fossil fuels, and move into renewable and clean energy resources. And I've been proud to lead that work both at the state legislative level as the chair of the House Energy Environment Committee, where I work to get coal out of our energy mix and make our clean fuel standard permanent, so that we can have dollars in investment for companies that are doing the work in building clean energy and new renewable energy sources. I'm on the board of Fourth, which is a national organization that's dedicated to the electrification of the transportation sector. And I helped push through our 100 by 50 renewable energy resolution at the county that says we are going to be committing ourselves in Multnomah County and the city of Portland to clean energy. We're saying when we passed it was by 2050. I think we can do better than that. And as Multnomah County chair, I will push us both within Multnomah County and at our state and national level to be investing wholeheartedly in this transition that's happening. So this is something that's a critical issue. The climate crisis is one of the most critical issues of our time. I've led on it and I will continue to lead on it as Multnomah County Chair.
And Commissioner Meieran.
Thank you. So the CEI hub is in my district, and this is something that has been a priority for me since neighbors actually first brought this to my attention several years ago. And they said, this thing is here. It is both an environmental, it has the potential to be an environmental disaster, and also, to just kill people and be a human disaster as well when the Cascadia subduction earthquakes hits. And so it is there right now. Yes, we do need to transition away from fossil fuels, and there's some great work happening. But given where that hub is, I have looked into this fairly extensively. We cannot move it. It cannot be moved. And so and I would be happy to talk more about why. There are a number of reasons, but given that it cannot be moved, the question is how we do mitigate the risk, both at the on the environmental impact level and the human level. And there are a number of ways that we can do that. Actually working with Senator Deborah is where he was able to build on the work that of the feasibility study and the Eco Northwest report that I had sponsored, the resolution that I had gotten passed at the county, and figure out where we can go. It's a multi-jurisdictional issue, but the county is the local board of health in addition to its other various roles. And what I am really interested in doing is expanding, really pushing the envelope in our various roles to say, what is our authority? What is the scope of our authority to address some of these things? Because people said, you don't have anything to do with this energy hub. But as I came up with an innovative approach, again, I didn't come up with it, informed by some experts to say, as a local board of health, there's some ways we do have authority to address this and convene partners to have that conversation, brought it to the Regional Disaster Preparedness Organization, elevated it at the state level.
And I have to give you time.
So much opportunity here, but it's urgent.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm not running because those are some tough questions. And all of our candidates did a great job. Those are the end of our scripted questions. Please give them a round of applause, both the panelists and the candidates. We're only running about 10 minutes behind, which is really good for an event like this. So I'd like to give our panelists, again, we gave them thanks, but I'd like to give our candidates 2 minutes for closing remarks before we end this session. So we'd like to start out with Commissioner Vega Pederson.
So each of us is here this morning because we care about this county and its people. And we all recognize that Multnomah County needs bold and strong leadership right now. We need a leader who understands the challenges our county faces, who sees the path forward, and who can weave together a coalition to create the change that we desperately need, and who will be transparent and accountable to the public for the work that we're doing. That is why I'm running for county chair, because that is exactly the work that I've been doing in this community for the past 2 decades. And we don't have time to waste. In the next 4 years, Multnomah County needs to meet its challenges using proven collaborative leadership. We are facing challenges of the size and complexity that absolutely require it. And I want to say that we are also facing narratives right now from those who say that our problems are so big that they cannot be solved, or who are presenting solutions through fear and division. And for those folks, I say 2 things. First of all, division has never solved a single problem, and it is certainly not going to solve the problems that are before us now. Demonizing people with homelessness won't get them off the streets, and harassing our community will not make it safer. And I will say that naysayers underestimate the power of our ability to come together and get things done. I don't. That is why I'm here. As a Latina, as a mother, as an East Portland resident, I have the life experience to lead the community with compassion and bring more voices to the table. Race for Multnomah County Chair is one of the most critical on the ballot in May, and we need a strong, proven leader who is able to step into the job running the third largest government in the state and get things done. I have a strong and big coalition of people who are supporting him in this work, and I have the plans and policy to get it done. I encourage you to check out jessicavegapederson.com to learn more about me, and I invite you to join me in this work in running and shaping the future for Multnomah County. Thank you.
Commissioner Meieran.
Thank you. So we cannot be patient when people are living in squalor and dying in increasing numbers on our streets. And we shouldn't be tolerant of systems that perpetuate the status quo. We need change, and that entails big picture thinking, vision, data-driven strategies, integrated and coordinated systems, and accountability for how we're using hundreds of millions, billions of taxpayer dollars. That's the theme you'll hear from me throughout all of my plans. And I do have plans. These are not just talking points for me. I have plans on my website, and I've introduced plans as a commissioner. And I'll admit, I sometimes have a hard time being concise about this stuff. And it is because it is my life's work and passion. It's because I know this stuff inside and out. It is because I know the people, the systems, and the strategies that will address the key issues right now: homelessness, behavioral health, public safety. That's the person I would want to be our next chair. And we are beyond a tipping point. I think about a book of dot to dots. Right now, we have some scattered dots in our system. We might try to add one or two more dots, but we're missing a whole lot of dots. And what importantly we're missing are the lines that put them all together. I will connect those dots. And I so appreciate being on an incredible board where my fellow commissioners will be there with me, and we will be together to address all of the important issues that are sort of each of our thing. My thing are the core issues of the county, and I have the background and leadership and commitment to move us forward through these crises.
And Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you. And Commissioner Meieran, thank you. If y'all don't know, you're stuck with all of us for at least 2 more years, no matter what. We can stand up here all day and talk about the problems, but what I want to talk about are the solutions. And I am the only candidate that has tangible, actionable strategies that will change the trajectory that we're on. And those solutions include the creation of an Office of Reentry Services to prevent people from churning through our criminal justice system, updating our civil commitment laws and creating a team similar to the Portland Street Response, creating a 24/7 first responder drop-off site and detox center with urgency, and creating an economic development and workforce stability department to connect people to jobs and focus on economic recovery. I believe in this community, and I know many of you in this room, that our collective sense of purpose will restore this region to its grandeur and its natural beauty. If you like the way that things are going, then you'll probably vote for somebody else. But if you want someone who is going to challenge the status quo, who has proven experience to bring real solutions to real problems, then I am the most qualified candidate. I didn't know we had 2 minutes, so I'm going to go off script a little bit here. No, I want 2 minutes. A couple of things. We haven't talked about the fentanyl and the meth crisis. Portugal has a model where if you are found in possession of drugs, you are treated through the medical system. You are mandated treatment. If you are caught with over a 10-day supply, you will go through the criminal justice system because drug dealing is a crime. And frankly, it is killing our youth. And again, you look at our homeless crisis. Again, we can sit up here and talk about incremental strategies and policies, but we're not looking at the larger picture. And I'm telling you, you know this already. The drug cartels that are happening in our community, and fentanyl is so deadly, so accessible.
And now it's 2 minutes.
We got big problems. I can solve them.
All right. Thank you very much. Give our candidates a round of applause. They did a great job. I'd like to thank all of you for being here today, and I'd like to welcome back Portland Business Alliance President and CEO Andrew Home.
One more time for our moderator, Ken Bobby. Let's hear it for him. I encourage all of you to linger afterwards and connect with these remarkable candidates. We actually really do have a fortunate position to be in this county, that we have so many talented individuals running for chair. That's a blessing, and we appreciate your service once again. So thank you. So with that, I want to thank all of you, both here personally and those who are online. We hope you have a wonderful day in the beautiful Rose City, and thank you all so much. Take care.